Hi, everyone. Well, we're here now with David Trevino from the DuPage County Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. That's a mouthful. To tell us about emergency preparedness kits. And I know, Dave, I've asked you this before about, what is mandatory? What do you have to have, the bare minimum? Maybe in a car. Now, if you've got two cars, you should have two of these.
In both cars. Yeah,
things going for you. Maybe if one person in the family drives 40 or 50 miles a day, they might maybe keep it, and then the one that's close to home maybe doesn't need it in the car because they're going to be mostly close to home. I don't know.
Unless you use the other car one day for your 40 or 50 mile trip.
Right. I don't know. What do you think?
But those things happen, right?
Sure. Well, March is Severe Weather Preparedness Month, and one of the best ways to get prepared is to get a kit. So we encourage people to have kits in their vehicles and then also in their home. And basically, when we look at emergency preparedness kits in general, it's supplies and equipment that would sustain you for up to 3 days for your home kit, for example, or up to quite a while in your vehicle kit in case you get stranded. You may remember several years ago there were ice storms, very severe ice storms, and people were stranded all up and down the interstate for quite some time. So it's important to have things like non-perishable food, like maybe some granola bars, snack bars, things like that. Water, but water that's not frozen. So if you just park outside and the water's likely to freeze, then you probably don't want to leave water in your car. But and then other things like a flashlight with extra batteries. For a kit that you're traveling with, a portable weather radio. A first aid kit, definitely, that's got supplies and equipment, bandages, things of that nature. And then for your home kit, kind of a nicer weather radio. These are still relatively inexpensive, around $25 or $30. And the great thing about these weather radios is you're able to program them so you only receive the types of alerts that you want to receive for the particular county in which you live. So you're not being disrupted all the time or woken up if there's an emergency somewhere other than where you live. And
so you put that in, it answers the questions. I guess it tells you what county DuPage, Cook, whatever, and you put that in, and then it'll only relate to those particular warnings, huh?
That's right, and we call these weather radios, but really the term now that everyone's going to is all hazards radios, because we'd use these for other types of emergencies as well to alert people. And this is what all of our staff members at Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management are required to have in their homes. It's how we often get notified of emergencies. So as technology advances, of course, there are a lot of cell phone applications and computer programs and other things to notify you of emergencies, but the more complex technology means the more points of failure there is. And so something with very simple technology like a weather radio that uses simple broadcast technology is a really effective way to receive information about it.
Now, where would you put that? Where would be a good place? In the kitchen or in one of your bedrooms, or
Yeah, I have mine in my bedroom, but it's loud enough to where you could hear it throughout the whole place. You can adjust the volume and the sound.
I would think you'd want it close by, because in case this happens when you're sleeping.
Exactly.
I mean, when you're awake, you might see, what's going on somehow. But yeah, the bedroom.
So it actually is loud enough to wake you up?
It is. I mean, just like an alarm clock would wake you up, it's very loud. You can program it where it goes off with a siren or a buzzer, different things. But they're really good to have. And I'm amazed. This technology's been around for years and years, and I'm amazed at how many people don't have them. I think that every workplace should have one, and everyone should have one of these in their homes as well.
Well, this seems kind of new to me, because I know if you live in California, we have relatives that live in California, they're always prepared for the earthquakes. And I think, oh, I don't want to live in California. I want to live where it's safe, Midwest. So we don't take those precautions. And I know we have a cousin who went through an earthquake, and she didn't even realize her arms were broken, and she's picking up things and moving it away and
trying to get out of the
shutting
house,
off the gas, because I thought she knew just what to do. I didn't even think of that. You have to shut off the gas, So I thought, that's there, and we're here. But with the weather, I guess we could run into some problems.
We sure can, and especially in March. Again, it's Severe Weather Preparedness Month, because if you're a disaster, March is your favorite month, because there's all sorts of things you can go out and do.
You get everything,
right?
in March.
Exactly. We have ice that builds up and then begins to thaw, which could create flooding. We have severe rains that could come in and also cause flooding, high winds that could cause tornadoes, all sorts of things. A piece of good news when it comes to disasters, if there is any good news, is that even though there's all sorts of different types of disasters that can affect us, there are certain commonalities among disasters. So we know that, whether it's the July 2011 or 2010 floods or the February 2011 blizzards, we know that something that both of those caused were significant power outages. So you don't have to prepare specifically for the flood or specifically for a blizzard. You can take an all hazards approach where you're putting together a kit and preparing for power outages. So you have your flashlight with extra batteries, you have your weather radio, you have your first aid kit, those types of things, bottled water. And definitely don't forget, again, we rely so heavily on technology. Make sure you have written down a list of contacts, because we saw with, here in Addison, for example, in July of last year, you guys were without power from Sunday morning, several households, all the way to Thursday afternoon.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Right, your cell phone's going to die before the power comes back on. You're not going to be able to charge it.
How do you charge it? That's right.
So you need to have contact information written down, so even if you can find a phone to use, you've got the numbers. You're not depending on your address book.
Well, and you say with technology today, too, you have your speed dialing and everything. You don't remember numbers like you used to, when you had to use the number all the time. So that's good advice, to write it down.
As far as putting things in your trunk, I would imagine you should once in a while go in there and take a look at them. Like I was telling you, I keep a flashlight and batteries, but I haven't looked in there for probably a couple of years. The batteries might not be any good by now, just sitting out there. So kind of rejuvenate it or check
That's
it
right.
out.
Just like you check your smoke detectors on a regular basis, you also want to check your emergency supply kit on a regular basis. A student the other day asked me in a class that I was teaching about, why does bottled water have an expiration date? Well, that plastic that's used breaks down over time. So even things like bottled water, and we call it non-perishable food, but everything expires at some point. So even canned tuna fish, stuff like that, it may be 5 years out or whatever the expiration date, but it's going to expire. So it's important to review your emergency supply kit and replace contents, replace the batteries even if you haven't used them. After a year or two, they're not going to be good anymore.
Well, what about like sump pumps and backup systems? I know in Addison we always have been known to be flooding all the time, but now we've pretty much controlled it.
Yes.
Is that necessary? Or some people say I don't have a backup system, but my basement never floods. I don't know.
Never say never?
Yeah, I mean, that redundancy in planning is an important part of emergency management. I mean, just like the work that I do with municipalities and helping them to be prepared with their police and fire and to help them have redundancy, you should have redundancy in your plans at home. So you should have backup plans in case your plans don't go as expected. Keep in mind, by its very nature, by its very definition, a disaster is something we don't expect to happen. We're not ready for. So you need to be prepared to modify your plan and have backups set up so that you do have a sump pump and a backup power supply. Some people, if they're able to have generators, that's a great thing to have so that you can have some power.
In case you don't have the electricity.
And you've got to be careful where you put that generator. Hopefully it should be outside, not in the garage running.
Exactly. And you want to have backups too in terms of your communications plan. So talk to your children, talk to your spouse about, if the phone service gets interrupted, if internet service gets interrupted, like it did in the July 1st microburst last year, how are we going to communicate? What are we going to do if we're separated and a disaster hits? Where are we going to meet up? What are we going to do? Because we're so reliant, again, on cell phones and technology to keep us in contact with each other. Well, you may not always have those tools available to you. So have plans in place now. That way, if a disaster does occur, you're a little bit more confident. You can be a little bit more relaxed because you know what to do and you've talked about it with your family.
So spend a few dollars and get whatever it is that you need.
It's so worth it.
It's so well worth it. Thanks, David.
Sure, and people can go to protectyourpage.org and print out a shopping list with emergency supply kit materials.
Well, that's a help.
Thank you. We'll be right back.